Dojo. So, as you may or may not know, I'm known as Eli, the computer guy. I've been a YouTube content creator since 2009. I create technology and business videos on YouTube and have over 1 million subscribers at this point. When you think about what is YouTube famous, this is the reality. The reality is sitting in the middle of the Roman Forum, basically baking in the Italian sun, trying to nurse a horrible hangover, trying to figure out if it's this wall I should care about or that wall I should care about, when a Pakistani couple comes up behind me and says, "Oh my God, you're Eli the computer guy, we need a picture." Literally, when I was in Amsterdam, I was in the red light district, just looking. Founder come up to me and go, "Oh my God, I'm here in Amsterdam in order to get funding for my startup company, and you're instrumental in what I was able to do." Even here in Asheville, North Carolina, I was walking out of an Indian restaurant not that long ago. Indian guy runs up to me and says, "Oh, thank you for what you do. I was in some backwater Indian village that didn't have very many resources. I learned from you and now work for Cisco." That's amazing. So who am I? Oh, look at that baby face. So I started in technology back in 1996. Remember those old days? Started off in the U.S. Army, going through one of the longest electronic programs that they had to offer. Went off and got my MCSE in NT 4.0 back in 2000. If you remember what an MCP plus high was. Also got certified in Affinity Systems, so you know what that is. Was in the corporate world, was a consultant, wound up having my own business with 9 full-time employees, all the way up until 2009 when I showed when I should have zigged, and well, went back to college. Basically shut down my business, decided, you know what, employees kind of suck, so I just want to become a really smart computer person. I'm going to get my master's degree, I'm going to get my PhD, I was going to be the computer guy. So I was sitting there, anyways, I was sitting in my master's degree program. If you could flip that around, I actually do need notes. I was sitting in my master's degree program, and basically, I looked around at the students around me and realized they did not give a damn about the information that they were being told. They were just there to get a piece of paper. I looked at my professor, realized he didn't care about the information being told. He was just getting a paycheck. And I looked down in the book, in my lap. I had just been paying 9 full-time technology employees, and I realized I did not give a damn about any of this information. So I thought, what if we do this online streaming thing, do on-demand education for the things that actually get IT professionals paid, and that's what, long story, wound up getting me into the YouTube world. Well, go a number of years past that, my wife and I decided to travel across the country. We get a travel trailer, and we go. We see the Grand Canyon and all kinds of things for about a year. While I'm on the road, I think to myself, you know, I'm kind of a little bored. Maybe I should meet some of these people that, you know, have been watching me all this time. So I figured I'll put out this notification. I'll get like 1 person a month to come and see me. I'll talk to them a little bit and see what's going on in the range. Yeah, I was getting up to 2 people a day coming to see me. I had people driving like 9 hours one way and flying and all kinds of ridiculous crap. Anyways, the interesting thing was, again, we think about time changing in the technology world. In 2009, it was really important to simply get access to education. Again, you don't realize what it was like that in 2009. But once we get to the later parts of the teens, the reality is that most people have moved beyond that. When you sit down and you talk with people, what they really need is a pat on the head. They need to be told that they're doing okay, or they need to get kicked in the nutsack. One or the other, right? When you think about the most vital things, like when you're going out and getting educated and trained and mentored and advised, it's not the degrees you remember, it's not the hours or years you spend in college, it's the individual moments. I think about this when I was in Army AIT. I was down in Fort Augusta, down in Georgia. I was walking with one of my drill sergeants at night one day. And basically, I just failed a test, right? So I was going through this really long, really hard electronics program. I just failed a test. And so my drill sergeant was stopping me and saying, "Oh, what's going on?" the whole 9 yards. And basically, I remember my drill sergeant looking at me and saying, "You know, private, you are a really smart private. If you do not start paying attention, you're going to be a very smart cook." I swear to you, that was a 5-minute conversation that changed the course of my life simply because somebody was there to say, okay, so there we go. So that one. There, that's where I get the Silicon Dojo. So Silicon Dojo is the idea is back in the day, I took my real-world experiences over to YouTube, the internet, so now my thought is, can I take my internet experiences and bring them into the real world? Authorityless, gatekeeperless, free to use, or hands-on technology education that empowers students to do what the hell they want to do here in Asheville, North Carolina. Again, authorityless. One of the most amazing things about the internet world is there is no authority to say who can or cannot get educated. I had a police discipline instructor 20 some odd years ago. And one of the things he explained to us is that you are ist. You are racist, you are sexist, you have bias, you have prejudices. And so when you're designing systems, when you're going through the mental process of dealing with somebody, try to come up with a mental system that basically eliminates where that decision-making process comes in. So with Silicon Dojo, basically we have a sign-up system. You sign up, you show up, I walk into a classroom, I don't get the option to say whether or not you should be educated because I like you or anything else. Gatekeeperless. In the modern world, one of the big problems is we have walls and we have gatekeepers, and people say, it's not that big a deal, right? Eli, charge $1 single for people to get into class to prove that they should actually be in the class if they want to come. The interesting... What? Anyway. Gatekeeper, so this is really distracting. I don't know. Go back. Oh, okay. A curve is too high a boundary for somebody that is basically in a dealership, right? A lot of people say just charge people $1 or whatever else. I lived in Baltimore City for 20 years. I had my business in Baltimore City. I dealt with disadvantage and social justice and all that horse crap. And I have to tell you, at the end of the day, there's nothing like sitting down and having a beer with other people that are trying to make the world a better place, going, oh my God, this is screwed up. Like, if you tell people that they have to pay $1, that means they have to have a bank account. That means they have to have a credit card. That means they have to have a PayPal access. That means a whole bunch of things just for them to be able to give you that dollar. So we're trying to get rid of the whole gatekeeper to begin with. For the end user, one of the great things I love about YouTube is that my people, whether they're in India or Pakistan or in the United States, they got the education for free. The thing that I like even more is for a long time there I was getting paid very well to do it too. One of the things I think is interesting about the internet world is the fact of the matter is the whole payment and the whole education actually gets separated out. So you can actually do very good work to the world. People can receive it for free and you get paid, which is something that gets left out a lot of times when people think about things. Hands-on technology education. Again, one of the big problems right now, you go to YouTube or Udemy or anything else, you don't actually get hands-on experience with what you're doing. You also do not create relationships. You do not get peer groups. You can't bounce stupid ideas off of other people and have them say that they're stupid ideas. So that's one of the reasons we want to do hands-on technology education, and that empowers students to do what they want. Again, an interesting thing, the whole social stuff and all that. I can say it like that, but dealing with decades at this point. One of the weird problems we have is that when people that want to make the world a better place, they have resources, they have money, they put their time and energy into it, they take some young, disadvantaged person, and not only do they help them, but then they tell that person what they're supposed to do with that help. I'm going to do this so you can get to college. I'm going to do this so you can do X, Y, or Z. What if the student doesn't want to do that, right? For me, I don't care. I don't care if I'm teaching somebody to create a Minecraft server or to create the next one. Anyway, that's a Minecraft server. Create the next Facebook or whatever else. Again, one of the big things too in the technology world with education is what happens if a student actually doesn't want to do it. I had a student, or I had an employee of mine, he was an African-American gay person. Yay! The problem is he had sold himself into a $40,000 debt to get an IT degree, and he sucked at IT. He was shockingly horrible at IT. And like that was the worst thing, to look at my own employee and going, you should not be in this profession. You can do well other places. And it's like, yeah, but Eli, I have a $40,000 loan. I'm locked to. And that's one of the things with Silicon Dojo. You can literally come, learn Python, learn you hate Python, and move the hell on. There's no loss to it. And here in Asheville, North Carolina, again, I have people that come long distances to see me. I think this would be a valuable thing. I did a meetup recently for these little Dojo derby vehicles. I had somebody drive 550 miles. He drove from Delaware here just to be part of a 2-hour meetup. Got done with it. I said, oh, what else are you going to do in Asheville while you're here? He said, I'm going to go to the hotel. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to go back to Delaware. He drove 1,100 miles one way just to be part of a 2-hour meetup, which is weird, but true. So the offering from Silicon Dojo. The big thing that I want to do is the 8-hour acceleration classes. Essentially, in the technology world, one of the big problems is, frankly, glossary terms. Again, I know voice over IP and Active Directory, Linux, Python, PHP, all this sort of crap. The biggest problem to learn is when you're first opening up the book and you don't know what any of these words mean. You don't know the important words or the stupid words or anything else. So we're going to do an 8-hour acceleration classes. So for Linux, we're going to get you to be able to install Linux, install services, restart services, edit files with Nano, that type of thing, so that from there you can go off and learn whatever it is you want to learn. We started doing the 1-hour weekly seminars. 1-hour weekly seminars. So basically, it's almost like one of these executive briefings. They're doing it in the morning now. We'll probably go to the evening later. But basically, introduction things like introduction to cybersecurity. We're doing an introduction to programming thing. Just an hour. This is what a wireframe is. This is what a programming language is. That type of deal. And then we do one-on-one in-person conversations. So at this point, I've really done hundreds of these, 400 or 500 of these at this point. Basically, again, it's an idea. You want to be in the tech field, we can sit down and talk, and I can explain to you the difference between being a programmer, a sysadmin, or whatever else. If you have a business and somebody has given you a contract and they want $10,000 for licensing, why am I paying 10 grand for a firewall? You sit down, we have a conversation. Tell you, does that make sense, or is it stupid for your situation? Revenue, again, free to the end user. How's this gonna work? Millennials and Gen Zers are surprisingly generous. So I started talking about this on a YouTube channel a while ago. DonorBox, think about this as a GoFundMe or whatever. They have already directly donated to me $12,000. I do live streams, actually doing a live stream right now. They throw money at me, and that comes out to about $3,500. So far this year, they've given me about $15,000, $16,000. No ROI. They don't get a baseball card for doing this. They just want this to exist. Let's see here. This is my big thing. So I don't know where this is. That's right over there. One of my dreams. My dream. There's a couple of pretty big spaces in there, bigger offices. And one of the thoughts that I had is imagine an education facility where people could walk in and they walk through an environment of entrepreneurs and coders and everything else. And they walk through that environment, they go get educated, they come back, they grab a cup of coffee or water, or go to the bathroom or whatever else, and they can literally have a conversation with people that are actually working in the field. Again, it was interesting. I did an interview with one of the local CEOs, and we were talking about what they did, and I was asking about how they developed their apps. And it was curious, like there's a React Native enclosure or something. Anyways, React Native is a Facebook developed programming environment. There's Clojure or something, it's this Google environment. And literally, like they both put out the same product, it's just how you do it. And they just use the Google one because he thought it was prettier. And again, that's an important thing in the tech world. Like, sometimes it's not these big, sophisticated reasons that companies decide. They're just like, oh, the owner learned this when he was in college. So if you can come out and you can have a glass of water with somebody, you might learn a better way to go about your career. The asks. What am I asking for? MacBooks. If you have an Intel MacBook, they're an amazing product. You can install all the flavors of Windows on it. You can install Ubuntu Linux. Works perfectly on it now. And Mac OS, obviously. Get the word out. Get the word out. Tell people that this exists. That's what we really need. These people are already paying me money. I kind of have to prove to them that it's not getting wasted. And then, of course, it's not a funding or anything, but there's a DonorBox link on my website, if you want to click on it. And the final thing, again, we think about in the modern world, intention, right? What is the intention? Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched the first time, and then everything goes to hell. So the real question is what is the intention behind what I'm doing here? And I think about this in a world long ago, back in 1999, when I was a much younger man, before my wife or anything else. I was doing paramilitary, military type stuff. I mean, think about this. This is one of the training programs I went to through the military. And at the end of it, always reckon that others may live. I've always taken this very much to heart. I'm in the technology world now. Again, for Generation X, we got in the tech world in weird ways. It was not an A to B type thing. But this is what I always keep in my heart. And that's when I think about, like, with Silicon Dojo. When we look at the modern world, when I was a young man, guns and body armor and jumping out of airplanes seem really heroic. What I've learned over the years, very seriously, is that a PowerPoint presentation and a whiteboard is exponentially more significant in the world. And so, we'll end with that.
Well, next up is, who's got questions?
Eli,
Yes.
I have terrible memory. because I've been living in Asheville. But like 10 years ago, I was a touring musician, and I saw a PHP series on YouTube, coded my first website, and it was you. And now I'm a solutions architect at IBM. Yeah, and like I had zero real that guy somewhere. Where is it? What's that? So yeah, one something.
Who else has questions or amazing comments?
Hi, Eli, how you doing? You're going to be doing it in person.
Yeah.
I was in the South Bronx for 12 years and actually did something similar. All right, I got a grant from the SBA to do it. And I was wondering about the gateless thing. You know, dangerous people will show up, right? And I mean, I imagine you can handle it, but if you have other instructors and things, what are you planning to do with that? And I recommend looking into economic development grants because you get amazing amounts of capital to help you do this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a danger. The world's a danger. It's always interesting, and when bring up the gatekeeperless stuff, like, it's funny, people like really fixate on that, because people are really, I mean, the world is a dangerous place. But one of the things that I would point out, actually how many bring criminal justice, and sadly in the United States, one of the most violent places to be, just period, is your job. You know, the secretary is most likely to blow your brains in. So, am I concerned about safety considerations with people coming to the class? Yes, it is a safety concern. At some point we will have surveillance cameras, we'll have other things, but I think sometimes it gets overblown. Again, also we're here in Asheville. Again, I came from Baltimore City. I had my business in downtown Baltimore City. You got to look at the risk environment. And so the risk environment here, I may be wrong, I may be incorrect. I'm not, it's a concern, but not an overwhelming concern.
So last week we heard from a nonprofit, and it seems to me this could be a nonprofit type operation, and then you would be more qualified for like grants and that type of thing.
Yeah, I thought about it. I've got so I thought about that a lot, actually. It's hard. If you do a nonprofit, it gives you, you know, whatever makes you seem more impressive to a lot of people. You're able to get donations, able to be tax deductible, a lot of those things. There's also a lot of requirements for being a nonprofit. You have to have the board, you have to keep the papers, and basically have to make sure you're not ripping off people theoretically. And so I'm a bit on the line because honestly, one of the most interesting things I think about the modern time period is we look at young people, and it's very easy to discount millennials and Gen Zers and whoever the hell the next one is. As a lot of stuff. But one of the interesting things about them is that they are incredibly generous. They want to invest in the world that they want to exist. So for my generation, I invest in what is. I invest for a dividend or a growth stock or whatever else. A lot of the young people now, they invest for the world that they want to exist. And so I'm not, you know, that's where it's a little bit on the, a lot of it's going to probably come down to, honestly, whether or not I get volunteers. So if I get volunteers, I need to be a nonprofit so I don't get hit by the IRS for stupid things. Other than that, I have friends who have created very beneficial corporations that have just been under LLC and that have done it under nonprofit. So that's where it's a little, like there's reasons either way, so I'm not quite sure yet. At these numbers, we're not quite at the numbers to worry about. So.
Eli, your ask of MacBooks, are you looking for some just home refurbished MacBooks that you can use in Silicon Dojo? Or?
Yeah. So any old used one, actually the 2012 versions are awesome. I go to back market, I can buy them for $100 to $150 a piece. They have network cards and all that kind of stuff built in. So yeah, something like that. Tony over here, he gave me his old MacBook Air. Basically, yeah, I mean, you're going to send me a few new Macs, I'm not going to complain, but no, actually, old ones will be good. Okay, what's next?
Who else?
Can you tell us about the Dojo cars and how that's part of your program? And last time I heard, you're trying to do voice activation with it.
Yeah, okay, so one of the things that I do is, I also have a meetup for this. Again, there's something called Dojo Derby, these little robotic cars. Basically, one of the big problems I found with my students is when people come to me and say how to become successful in technology or get ahead, what is really the only answer? The only answer to that question is solve problems with technology, which is easy for me. Again, I've been doing this stuff since 1996, so I can go home and I can see something at home and go, oh, I wonder if I can code for that. Right? The interesting thing is when you're dealing with 18-year-olds or people that are just coming into technology, right? They've just spent a week learning Python, and they're like, what should I do next? And you're like, solve a problem with Python. Like, what does that mean? And so basically, this is a problem, right? So this platform actually uses a Raspberry Pi. For this particular one, this has 8 gigs of RAM on it. It has a quad-core processor, a full Wi-Fi stack, Bluetooth stack, networking stack. Plus it has these what are called GPIO heads. And you can actually power it just off a little USB battery pack. And so the idea here is you can then build vehicles and then design them and code them however you want. So this has a full LAMP stack on it, has Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. It runs PHP, it runs Python, there's JavaScript, HTML5, APIs that allow you to drive the vehicle around. It's got a little camera on it, so you actually get a first-person perspective. And so the idea with these things then is you could code in C# if you wanted to. Now you can add OpenCV. There's enough pure resources on here, hardware resources, that OpenCV is an open source machine vision framework. So you can actually install that directly onto here and be able to build a vehicle that sees and responds to what it sees for, whatever, a couple $100, right? It's all basically off-the-shelf parts. So basically that's the idea with the Dojo Derby. We've had a couple of meetups. Again, that one guy who drove 1,100 miles, I crap you not, he came for that. We're going to start having some more in the fall. It's been a little busy right now.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
You talk about diversity a bit. What steps do you plan on taking to ensure that pupils of Silicon Dojo are diverse?
To ensure? I can't do anything to ensure.
Attract.
Attract, that's it. Well, no, I think that's a big thing. Like when we use these words, a lot of people use words that are simply incorrect. You can't ensure correct, right? So what are we going to do to attract? Basically, one of the things that I found in my life is if you do something really cool and you tell everybody about it, people generally show up. Again, when I had my store, it was interesting. My own employees, a lot of people do donations. We had an Ethiopian, we had an Albanian, we had a gay black guy, we had a black woman, we had people across the board there. I didn't do anything special. I just put out the damn help wanted ad. Good people showed up. Again, when I was in Baltimore City, if you looked at the people that I supported, horseshoes and hand grenades, it looked like the city. Again, I literally have a story about going from the projects to the penthouse, and literally one day I was in the projects of Baltimore with 9 kids running around this 2-bedroom apartment trying to fix a computer. The next job I went to, I was in a penthouse, and the guy was discussing thousands of thread count sheets. So that's just kind of how I am. So basically with this, we're promoting it on Meetup. Again, one of the big things that I found in Baltimore, the way that good people can stay racist, is what you do is you say anybody is able to come through the door. We have an open door policy. Anybody who walks through the door is able to come in. And then you don't tell the wrong people that the door exists. Right? If they don't know the door exists, they ain't gonna walk in. Win-win. That's garbage. Anyway, so again, with this, it's getting advertised on Meetup. Once I start seeing how many people actually show up and how it all looks, again, I'm more than happy to go down Black Wall Street. I might be doing these million cups. One of the next ones, hopefully, as long as this doesn't go horribly, is I'll go to Atlanta. Like, I'm looking to do the outreach. Again, my viewers already are Indian, are already after. I mean, the people that come up to me and want a selfie, I mean, that's only a small survey, but the majority of them don't look like me. So a lot of this is going to be that basic thing. And then also just that people are comfortable when you come in and you're a student. I think one of the big problems we have right now with the whole diversity thing is like, oh, thank God it's a black person. Right? At least to me, that's obnoxious. I mean, again, I've been in places where I've been a white person, and that's just weird. I want people to come in, you're the student. You're a student, and you're a student, and you're a student. Learn, right? And I think that's one of the things when we hyper-focus sometimes on diversity, you get weird results. There was some research about this with job postings that put out equal opportunity. They put equal opportunity into the job posting, and what they found out was high-level, diverse people didn't apply. And the reason was because just like everybody, they busted their ass to get to where they were, and they did not want to be a freaking diversity hire. And so that's one of the things, like with this, if you ever sit down and talk with me, it's far more than 20 minutes. This is high level thing. This is about marketing. This is about where we put up pull tab side. This is where we do advertising. This is where I do these kind of speeches and do outreach and that kind of thing. So there we go. That's something.
Well, let's give you a round of applause.